now we're finally going to start diving into the program and making some drawings and models. Go ahead and start a new document from the template that we created previously. You'll notice that because we saved it as a template, we have our toolbars, our background is white. If we type units, our units are correct, and everything else we changed has been adjusted correctly. First off, I'm going to explain a little bit about input methods for drawing. Let's start by selecting the Draw Line tool from anywhere you prefer. The Draw panel on the ribbon, the toolbar, or by the command line by simply typing L. You'll notice that as I select the Line tool, it's going to immediately ask for some input values. The first thing it's going to ask us for is a starting location. We can either select wherever the cursor is at, or we can actually input the exact starting coordinates based off of a polar coordinate system. Polar coordinates are based off the modeling space being separated into 4 quadrants. Displayed is a graphic with a brief breakdown of polar coordinates. As you can see, that as we input values, it will position it based on its relation to this polar coordinate system. We enter these values by typing first the x value, followed by the y value. As you can see, according to this grid, each line on the grid represents ½ inch, and it's placed us directly on 1 x and 1 y. Real quick, I'm going to turn off my snap settings for the grid. While some people work well with polar coordinate system, we will use another input method. Dynamic input is a feature on the application status bar. It's located right here. If it's not on the bar already, you can toggle its appearance by going to the far side and clicking Customization, and making sure that Dynamic Input is selected. Dynamic Input displays the command prompt next to the cursor. Instead of using the absolute coordinate system, it uses dynamic and relative coordinate system. So like from our first experience with the line command in the polar coordinate system, we can still type 1, 1 for our starting position. But now, if we type 2, 3, it goes 2 and 3 up away from this point, as opposed to, with the polar coordinate system, to that exact point on this system. We're going to primarily use dynamic input because of its ease in typing our distances when creating walls and features. There are of course other draw tools. Some of the more commons that we'll use will be polyline, which, much like the line command, creates a line. When you finish a line segment, it prompts you for another segment. You can keep drawing until you've finished whatever feature you need to. Now, instead of being separate line segments, it's one whole line segment. This can be helpful when wanting to use modify commands, which we'll use in the next video. Circle is another great feature to use. There's many ways that you can specify how you want to define your circle. The most common is to use the center and the radius. Arc allows you to create an arc by specifying the first and last points, and then the angle of the arc. Another line type that we'll use is construction lines. Construction lines allow us to select a base point and then a direction, which will create a continuous line in whatever direction we select. This can be extremely helpful when you need to translate geometry from one point to another. We'll use this primarily when we do our elevations. Finally, M-line creates multiple lines simultaneously. Play around with this tool by simply clicking and dragging. You'll notice that as we drag and move, the interior of these lines adjusts to be able to maintain its justification. Again, this will be extremely helpful when we go over making a simple condo. You can type C, much like with polyline, to close off the feature that you've just drawn, and it will match accordingly. Those are our draw tools. There are of course many more, and we'll end up using some of these as we go along.